Alright, so I just saw Venom, The Last Dance. Let's talk about it. Directed by Kelly Marcel in her directorial debut, she was a screenwriter on the last film, stars Tom Hardy, and a whole bunch of other people. Full disclaimer, I'm pretty Marvel ignorant. I can count on about 2.5 hands how many of the movies I've actually seen. Now, over the last, I'd say 3 years and some change, I try to see as many movies as I can. Almost every big movie that comes out. So, any Marvel movies that have come out between like summer 2021 and now, I've seen it. Except for that Ant-Man movie. I didn't see that one. I say that so you know where I'm coming from. I'm not comic book savvy. Any of these comic book movies, don't ask me anything. I don't know. For the most part, I've been able to enjoy what I've seen. Now, this isn't MCU, obviously. Sony owns the rights to the Spider-Man portion of Marvel. But, you know, it's all interconnected. Now, I did watch the first Venom movie, and by watched, I mean today. This movie kind of sort of picks up where the second movie left off. He's a fugitive. He's on the run. He's in Mexico now, hiding out. And they are on their way to New York because they need a new place to hide. As it turns out, the creator of the symbiotes is wanting his revenge, and he's looking for a codex. He's been imprisoned by the symbiotes for however many years, supposed to be for eternity, and he needs a key. And apparently Venom and Eddie Brock, our two dudes here, have the codex. And so these crazy looking things that look like axolots, are coming after them trying to get this key. Well, here's the thing. Now, the good thing about the Venom movies is they're not very long. They're not the typical 2.5-hour Marvel, extravaganzas that we get. However, for how thick the story wants to be, this movie isn't long enough. But at the same time, it's almost too long because the plot here is so empty. This was not good. My question to those of you who are like Venom fans, you love these movies, what are your expectations? Like, what are you coming here for? Because you may not be coming here for the plot. You might be coming for, the buddy comedy of it all. The best, most entertaining part of the movies, and this will be a reason why I'd probably watch this at night right before I go to sleep, it's the relationship between Venom and his host, Eddie Brock, and their back and forth banter and that relationship. I mean, that's hilarious. It's funny. It's wonderful. If they had just kind of stuck to that, I understand there's got to be conflict here, but honestly, that was the best part of the movie. When we got to the whole, aliens from outer space, axolots trying to, unalive them, that's when it just got stupid and kind of rushed. Very expository dialogue. Like, why are you telling us so much? Why can't you show us what you're trying to say? Why are we having these, big expository details come out of the actors' mouths? But then it makes sense because the runtime is only about an hour and 49 minutes long. If that, because you got to take into account the credits. For those who did not know, the credits are included in that runtime. Speaking of credits, there is an end credit scene. It's not worth your time. As soon as it hits black and white, just bounce. That end credit scene ended, and quite literally, everyone in the theater said, "Are you kidding me? That's it? That's it?" Tom Hardy, thank God for him, because he commits 100% to everything he does. And I love his Eddie Brock. I love how he's created this 3-dimensional character in a 2-dimensional universe. I mean, this movie is an absolute waste of space. I'm sorry. That was a waste of my time. That was a waste of everyone's time. But, I have AMC A-list. I didn't pay for this ticket, so I don't feel too bad. The plot was just so jumpy, just nonsensical, because it's never really clear where anything is except for the whole Roswell part of it all. Because, 1 minute they're like, "Oh, there he is, we see him on surveillance," and then 2 seconds later they're dropping, people from helicopters on top of him. Like, how did you get there so fast? It's just, there's no connective tissue here. It's just very jumpy, very episodic. I haven't used that word in a long time. Episodic. It's just very jumpy. The plot is not cohesive. Now, the first movie I watched, I would say the same thing. The plot is just very thin, very weak, but this is just worse than that. It's almost like they had to do something. They needed to put something together to, make this thing come full circle. And they just kind of pulled a plot out of their booty holes and hoped it stuck. Permission to say something slightly controversial. Marvel, and that includes MCU plus Sony's portion of Marvel, they're desperate to diversify the voice of Marvel by bringing in more female directors. I'm just curious, why isn't it working? Right now, we're 0 for 3 in less than a year. You had this one directed by a woman, you had Madam Web directed by a woman, and then Nia DaCosta directed The Marvels. I love a good female director, don't get me wrong. There have been some incredible movies this year directed by women. But I don't know what it is about this comic book space where it's just like something's not clicking, something's not connecting, it's just not working. I mean, this needs to be studied. I'm curious. Either way, that was just an absolute waste of time. Now, if you are all about like the relationship between Venom and Eddie Brock and all the things that, Venom does and the transformation and all that jazz, if that's what you're going for, then by all means. That part's good. It's everything else that just weighs the movie down. Now, I haven't finished the second film, and I'm going to make that a priority because I just realized that movie is directed by Andy Serkis, and I love him. And he's in this movie as well because, he is just the king of motion capture. But that's neither here nor there. But just what I saw of the second film, I think I got maybe a quarter of the way through. This might be the bottom of the three. It's definitely worse than the first one. By the end of it, it felt like the tone felt like we had to do this instead of we need to tell this story. Does that make sense? Looking at the movies I have left to see this month, I feel pretty confident in saying this is the worst movie that I'll have seen in the month of October.